Audio running. Z50, ZV1, claps all around. And hi, my name's Relevant, and today on the show, my main rig is getting an upgrade to a 3950X. Used to be, I didn't think I needed more than 8 cores. Not for what I did. A lot of interneting, research, spreadsheets, and the most intensive thing my computer would do was gaming. And you could do that with a good 6-core, but of course, being a bit of an elitist, I had to have at least 8. I'm currently running a 3800X, and it used to be I would do the pro gamer moves and get the 7 version, you know? I had the 1700X, the 2700X, and I was pricing out a 3700X when I noticed I was ready to purchase the 38, was on sale, and came with 2 AAA title games. So I got Outer Worlds and Borderlands 3 with it, whereas the 37 only came with 1. So that's how come I ended up with that. Since I've started doing this whole YouTube thing, I'm seeing why now more cores would be beneficial. Now, every year around this time, I take money I've set aside and I upgrade my PC, and I was budgeted for a 5900X this year. It's a great time to be upgrading with the 5000 series processors and the 6000 series GPUs, but you can't get them because AMD's all the rage right now. Fortunately, this means the individuals who have got them, they might be selling their other top tier components used, like this 3950X. Not only was I able to get it for half retail price, but cheaper than what I would have spent on the 5900X. Now, if I'm looking at benchmarks, the 5900X and the 3950 are very close. This actually narrowly beats out the 5900X overall. Now, of course, the per core performance is nowhere near close. So my gaming performance isn't going to improve at all. But my multi-threaded performance, like rendering, that should gain substantially. So before we tear into it, I want to get some baselines here, run a few tests to find out exactly, you know, what kind of gains we're going to see. Now I got a project here I opened, and I'm going to run a test render on it. I'm using the AMD VCE 1080 30 frames a second for this particular thing, and this is going to be 835 test. Now let's click it and time it and see what happens. Let's look at this telemetry. CPU usage is only at 50%. Maybe there's some bottleneck there. It's been theorized that it's time for me to get more RAM, and it's on order. But for now, I only have 16 gigs. We're turboing up to 4.26 here, but the real relevant thing here is I'm using a chunk of video card. I have dual Vega 64s in here, and with a recent driver update, Crossfire becomes relevant again because my rendering in this program uses both cards. Here we have video encode running the card up at 50%. Over here, copy running the second card to 25%. So I'm using a little bit of everything here rendering. So total render time, 2 minutes and 46 seconds. For video, that's about 9 minutes and 30 seconds long, and that's a 1080p render. Now, one hack that I use is, even though I film and work in 1080p, I often render in 4K. That way, once I've uploaded it to YouTube and YouTube goes and quashes and ruins my video, at least if you set it to 4K, you get something resembling the quality that I intended it to be. So let's try that and see what difference it makes. There's the 4K, test 4K, and giver. Once again, we're seeing CPU utilization in about the same area, 50%. We are seeing now 77 to 80% usage on the first video card. The second video card is staying consistent with 30% copy. We're at 2 minutes and 56 seconds now at 50%, so 4K is taking twice as long so far. Turbo is holding at 4.2 gigahertz. You know what just occurred to me? I'm screen capturing right now with the Radeon software. That might be affecting my scores, but consistency, I'll be having it running when I do the next set of tests. All right, project finished, 6 minutes and 26 seconds. All right, now we have that data out of the way. Let's move forward. Now, one non-standard benchmark that I like to use sometimes is this one called SiSoft Sandra. And these processor benchmarks, it runs a whole gamut of benchmarks on your processor that spits out numbers that I can use for reference. Now, unfortunately, this test takes a while, up to 20 minutes, even on a good processor, and it works it hard. Like, you hear your fans ramp up like you're running Prime 95 full bore, and your computer is going to lock up at certain points. If you have an unstable overclock, this is going to bring it out of your CPU even easier than Cinebench will. So I'm going to run this and, see what happens. And now we wait. So indeed, that took quite a while. And when it's done, it spits out a bunch of information. Like processor multimedia, 888.05 MPICs. Cryptography, 20.753 gigabytes a second. Financial analysis, 58.63, whatever a kiloopt duration. I give up. Processor scientific analysis, 52.46 gigaflops. That's a term we're more familiar with. Image processing, 481.30 megapixels a second. Multi-core efficiency, 78.282 gigabytes a second. And the overall score is summed up in 8.66 kpt. Whatever kpt is. So we're gonna keep that on the back burner here to compare later. So now we'll move on to some more recognizable, classic, cliche benchmarks. Here's Cinebench R15. Ho, 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 ho. Look at it just rip through there. 2,128. I'll run it a few more times just to see if it's consistent. Same deal. And something that's more in vogue now, because it's more up to date, Cinebench R20. Seems they got rid of the graphic bench because nobody ever uses it. What do we got here? More down the list in ways that I'm not used to. 4,812. Now, right now, I am only using PBO. I have not overclocked this. Well, I have overclocked it, I just don't generally run it overclocked. I let it do its thing because for the first time in Ryzen history, the 3000 series actually PBO is pretty damn good. I've been happy with what I've gotten out of it. However, I do have an overclock profile established for this guy. 4.425 gigahertz all core. Why the 2.5? So that it shows up as 4.4 in Task Manager. Now let's run these Cinebenchies again and see what happens. 2,283. Those aren't the biggest gains in the world. I feel like I've had that number up to like 2,400 before. And now let's hit up the R20. I'm not the most talented overclocker in the world, and as you know, Ryzen doesn't give us much headroom, so how far we get to push it is up for philosophical debate. I have my old score in there, 5260, and I'm only getting 5196. There's probably some crap going on in the background that's slowing me down. No matter. This isn't a demonstration of overclock, this is a demonstration of raw power. Not that we're not going to try to overclock it, right? Now, another workflow thing that I do that rips hard on the cores is I record my main camera here to the Atomos Ninja 2. And that records in ProRes LT, which is a large file around 90 to 100 megabits. Now, I don't actually work in ProRes LT. I convert it over to XAVC-S in 50 megabits. Now, there is no hardware acceleration with this program. It's all software, so it rips on the cores pretty good. And this is one of my primary reasons for wanting more cores. Doing the render after I finish the project's not that big of a deal. It's my ingest that's a pain in the arshin. When I have all this footage that I need to get onto the computer, and I have all this encoding I needed to do, and that's just one of my reels. If I'm doing a computer video and I'm doing screen capture, it records in this weird 60 frame a second format. I definitely need to convert it over to an editing friendly format. So I'll have 2 different drives with 2 different sets of footage that I need to re-encode. So let's click on this and see how hard it rips. And there's gonna be no timer, so we gotta watch this one. This is a 35-minute recording, and go. And we got our processor ripping at 60-70% here. And time. That took 17 minutes and 26 seconds. Maybe I should have chosen a smaller file, but that gets the point across. Also allows it to warm up a bit. So now I think we got all the data we need. Now I gotta disconnect this thing and I can finally install. Yeah. Stoked. This machine is heavy. This machine is not light. Let's crack her open. Old school half case. One of the best cases I've ever owned, and I'm yet to find one that I like better. Now, the good thing is I don't believe we're going to need anything resembling a BIOS update since we're going from a high-end 3000 to a high-end 3000. This thing should drop in fit. I got to pull off my Heat Killer 4 water block. Right. There's these little washers that have to come off. Awk washers. They're awkward washers. They're not lock washers, they're awk washers. And that flopped out entirely. Oh, I forgot to unplug my RGB. Oh, my RGB's taped into place. Oh, what kind of rocket scientist not thinking ahead did that? Oh, probably this guy. Okay. This water block came stock without RGB, so I had to make that correction. All right, let's clean that up there. All right, well, you maybe don't like doing CPUs sideways, but I have many times. Oh, 3800X. Nice. The box this guy comes in is kind of funny because you just pop that off and the guy's just at the top here and the rest of this is just a block of foam. Like, it's just a box of foam. You literally could make this tinier, teenier, tinier. Oh, she pops open with a vengeance. Okay, bud, where's our index? It's that way. So this pupper goes in like this. Doesn't look like this guy used as much care as I did cleaning it. All right. And of course, we got the Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut. No, Cryonaut. I forget the good stuff that they're always using. All right, so applying thermal glue sideways is a tricky subject because you don't want her dripping down. Oh, I think I'm slopping this, and I'm definitely getting the drip going on here. Yeah, it's not the classiest application of thermal glue, but you know, I'm trying to do it all awkwardly on camera so you can see it. But hey, you know, we just smush this into place and it'll make everything all better. I'm gonna get one of these spring assemblies into place. All right, now I just have to tension these down and that should do it. We're gonna start getting this guy cooking and it doesn't look like we'll be able to give it the wiggle. Hopefully you still reconnect this RGB here. Oh, okay, this is gonna be a tricky contortion. Okay, RGB's reconnected. And this is all custom RGB, by the way. I literally bought like a bulk spool of the stuff and bulk wire and soldered it all together. So I have RGB splashed all throughout this guy. I should top off the coolant while I'm here, actually. It's looking a bit low. This pupper's got an old school Danger Den Bay Res that I keep topped off with my special recipe of herbs and spices. No, it is not straight distilled. All right, that should be good for now. One of these days when I'm monetized and can afford to waste money, I will get a new case. In the meantime, this is an excellent case and it serves my purposes just perfectly, especially when you want a lot of airflow to run a lot of high-end hardware. You almost can't beat this guy. Just need to do some modifications, like cut out the 3.5 base to add more rad. So yeah, let's go back and get this pupper fired up because I don't think I'm gonna need to do any more real tweaking on it here, so we should be good. All right. I wanna press this button, man. Let's, oh, is she gonna post? She should. No reason not to. The suspense is getting to me. There. Ha! We got post. New CPU installed. Please enter setup to configure your system. Well, don't mind if I do, bud. Let's just press this F1 here. Okay, Ryzen 9 3950X 16 core, 3.5 megahertz. You dumped my RAM. You little... Keep current settings. Core voltage, auto. Okay, this is pretty much, because that's what I want. Did you really dump my RAM? It's dumped my RAM settings. I have to do RAM manually all over again. That's awesome. It's 3200 CL14 RAM that I run at 3600. All right, let's bust out our documentation here in 16, 36. No, 32. Really? All right, that's fine by me. 36, 12, 5, 3, 45, 4, 6, 8, 16, 8, 3. Around, 8, off. off. 5. 24. Okay, that's all our manual memory settings parked in there. No reason why this memory controller shouldn't be able to handle it. Now, let's boot into Windows. System is posted in safe mode. Oh, did I set my... Yeah, my RAM voltage was at 1.2. Derp. I gotta set it to 1.35, buddy. Now what's gonna happen? We got post, and it is booting. Now, let's see this. Let's see this. Boom! Oh, 32 threads. Oh, wow. I didn't see this coming anytime soon. 32 threads, bud. 32 threads. Okay, now let's test on this. Test number 1. Let's render the video. Oh, I'm using a chunk of my GPU for video encode. Well, we were running this this feature before when I did the test last, so it should be fair game this time. Now, render as. We're gonna go back to the 1080p. All right. Give her. Oh, it's only using 30% of my CPU. It's whacking my GPUs about the same way it did before. Well, actually, I think it's running GPU 1 a little harder. No, we're getting 60-70% GPU, 30% second GPU. But, so this program is not leveraging my cores, not correctly. But again, that's not a deal breaker because I'm happy with my rendering performance since it leverages both my Vegas. Now, the display that I'm seeing here looks smoother, and it is using a chunk of all 32 threads. I wonder what happens if I do pure CPU render now. 2 minutes, 24 seconds. So we shaved off a couple seconds of rendering time in this exercise. I don't know that I'm gonna bother doing the 4K test. Maybe I will later. Let's move on to Catalyst Browse. Everything should be lined back up where it goes. All right. Old time, 17 minutes, 26 seconds. This is where I'll be disappointed if I don't see gains. Everything's set up the way it was before, and give her. So far, I don't know how amazing this is performing for me. Looking at the processor's telemetry, it's almost like it's hitting each core less. It's consuming the same amount of overall system resources, it's just spreading it out more. Which is disappointing because it looks like this is going to take about the same amount of time. 16 minutes and 4 seconds. I'm gonna admit that's disappointing. That's like a difference of 1 minute and 20 seconds. In the meantime, let's move on to Cinebench. This has got to impress. This has to. Brrr, all those little workers biting away. Wow, it definitely looks faster. 4,015. Yeah, we're almost literally seeing double performance there. And how about the good old R20? Even though it's the good new. She's moving, bud. She's booking it. Oh, well, hey, at least I beat out a 16-core Threadripper. 9,064. Gains, bud. Gains. Now, totally experimental. It's time to induce a crash state. I do believe. What are the chances that my overclocking profile is just gonna work? If I just chucker this popper up to 4.4, is it just gonna yeet or what? Oh, no, it does not like it at all. I'm gonna have to start all over again seeing what I can get this processor to do. And my system does not sound happy. Oh, come on. She won't freaking turn off, bud. Gonna have to kick it manual style and flick the switch. All right, now what are the chances she's gonna reboot without dumping all my settings and having to go in there and redo the RAM? Okay, looks like we're gonna be okay. It was a very hard crash. A very hard crash. Who knows, maybe I'm better off with 4.4 gigs all core and only 8 cores than having 16 cores. A difference in 1 minute rendering a 17-minute file? Ugh. So far, I'm not seeing my money's worth out of this. Okay, everything's back to normal. You know what I just noticed? Our voltage is running too hot. Oh, Where's our SoC? SoC went back up to 1.1. Well, I think we have some foul play here, sir. Indeed, this is I didn't update my bias, and maybe I should do that. I'm gonna have to make overclocking this CPU a whole separate video. I think I'm gonna have to do that, because right now my SoC is entirely too high. That should be more like 105, in and around there. I forgot I don't have screen capture on. It used to be with the 1000 series Ryzens, they ran too low an SoC voltage of like 0.09. And then they found in practice, the overclockers figured out if you bumped it up to 1.1, you got more stability overall and slightly better overclocking and whatnot. And that translated over to the 2000 series, and that worked fine. But then in the 3000 series, the drastic change in architecture didn't need as much voltage, and computers were becoming unstable until we had to lower the SoC voltage. If you're familiar with some of the hoopla around the Crosshair Hero board, X570, there was that classic 8D error. One of the only reasons why I have a Crosshair Wicked board is because it was open box for cheaper than the board I wanted originally, because someone returned it because it was plagued with the AD error. And really, that just requires turning down the SoC. Also, they have a tendency to run the voltages of the CPU too hot, and it needs to be throttled down. There's all sorts of tuning that needs to be done on this processor. Maybe this would be fixed with a BIOS update, but you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Maybe it's broke. But either way, I know how to tune on this thing. It went to 1.4. So if we drop this 1.05 undervolt, we might see a better turbo. But we're not going to know because this SiSoft Sandra benchmark locks up the computer. So we don't want anything else going on. So in the meantime, I'm going to run my SiSoft Sandra with our stock. And since it takes so long, I'm going to go have dinner. So here we are. It is done. Let's see the results. Processor multimedia increased from 888 to 1694. Indeed, that must be multi-threaded because that is consistent with double performance. Processor cryptography only went from 20 to 23. That tells us that's more per core dependent. Financial analysis went from 58 to 115. Again, we are seeing gains in the cores. Processor scientific analysis went from 52 down to 48. That is a surprise. Seeing as how this guy is not PBOing quite as high as my 3800, I'm guessing that's part of what that problem's all about. Image processing from 481 to 952. Multi-core efficiency from 78 to 139. Wow, that's some nice numbers. And overall score from 866 to 13.42. Well, we have definitely seen a gain here, sir. Definitely seen a gain. At least with the kind of gains you're going to get with a higher core count. Not so much in the whole, you know, that's bugging me. So let's go look at our overclock profile here. And then let's bust out some R20 to test on this. So you're running R20, and hopefully we're going to see a bust on those cores. Only getting a turbo of 3.9. Yes, AI Suite also confirms 4. And CPU voltage only 1129. Okay. Maybe I went a bit low on this voltage here. 92,020 points. Oh, we got an increase over the last run. Runner again. 273. 29. Bring it back to 0. What's that voltage want to bust up to? 121. 129. Where is our power limit? I don't know where to find our power limit in here, bud. 1.425. See, we get these peaks of 1.425 here. It's just all over the place. So we're going to start with our old overclock profile. SoC 1.06250. CPU core voltage 28125 over. And if we don't try to push the frequency, unless it just is not having it in the voltage department, if I apply this, okay, the system did not instantly crash. Now let's give her a little stressor. So we're holding at 4 gigs, 1.281 volts, 9262. We should be able to do 4.1. Indeed, 4.09 there. 1.281 volts. That seems abnormally low for me. Also said it was doing 157 watts there. 4.2 and 9492. Slowly climbing up there. Oh, see the voltage is at 1 point. It jumps around all over the place. Maybe that's that, what's it called again? Load line calibration. 9,700 points. 4.3. Is that overclock sticking? Yes, there it is. And run. Oh, we got a crash at 4.3. Suggesting at 1.369 volts. So 1.37 is usually my target. I don't want to give it much more than that. I'm going to increase the voltage just a touch. Okay. Nope. Crashy crash. Touch more. We'll go to 0.3. 377. Crash instantly. All right, let's try going the other way. That's always a fun thing to do. 750, I do believe that was a lower number. You want at least 4.3. No. We're trying to do a little undervolting here. 250, that's an extreme undervolt. At some point, you can encounter failure. Different crash this time. 3125. We're going back up in the voltage. CPU's at 1.4 volts now. I do not want to go any higher than that, and I do not want to sustain that voltage. However, we're not crashing now. No, we crashed anyway. We made it a little bit farther, but we still crashed. Okay, so let's reload the profile. 28125 and drop this down. 4250. Can we sustain 4250 all core? 165 watts, 166 watts it's saying. 9852. Well, we'll save this profile. That's disappointing. I can get better performance per core out of my 3800X because my 3800X will sustain 4.4 all core all day long. Maybe it's not a golden sample, but a silver sample, and maybe this 3850 is mediocre. Now, when you cram that many cores together, there is more of a propensity for it to heat soak and not be able to run as efficiently. Or you never know, this is a used processor, maybe it's been abused, maybe it's degraded. At the end of the day, I bought it to do work. So as long as it does that, but I'm gonna have to touch on this again. Maybe learn more about the phase calibrations and stuff like that, because the quest for 4.4 out of this processor would be great. In the meantime, I am not super enthused. I was expecting my rendering to go way faster than this, but there's more angles to approach this from. Maybe there are certain RAM limitations. It needs more room to cache up stuff. So even though it doesn't look like it's maxing out the RAM, the program's not letting that happen. Whereas the program, if it detected more RAM, it would use more RAM and it could light up those cores better. As it stands right now, instead of utilizing the more cores, it just spreads the workload and works each core less, which I don't like. Those aren't the results I was going for. So as it stands right now, it's quite possibly that this is money wasted. It's a good thing I didn't buy it full retail. Same time, you don't really regret getting more cores unless, my gaming performance hurts. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things you wouldn't have known until you tried. And nobody else out there in YouTube world does tests as specific to my applications as I'm looking for. So at the end of the day, you just kind of have to YOLO it, dive in, and yeet yourself over to the other side of the fence where you really want to judge how the color of that grass. My name's Irrelevant, and if you've enjoyed this, stay tuned. I have more upgrades coming, 32 gigs of RAM, a Gen 4 SSD. I'm also going to be upgrading my NAS. So, fun times for you computer geeks, and fun times for me too. Oh boy.